CGC Sports Illustrated wanted to do a quick video based on a lot of questions I get regarding how I self-grade my issues. So when you're sending an issue into CGC to be graded, obviously you want the best grade possible. So it's a good idea to kind of learn what CGC is looking for and the kind of things they use to downgrade magazines so that you know and kind of can project your grade and you know whether or not it's worth sending the magazine in. So I'm going to start off here, and there's a difference between modern issues and vintage issues, obviously. So we're going to start off with a modern issue here. So I've got this Kobe issue. With modern issues, the first thing you're going to want to check for is fingerprints, because that tends to, because of the way the paper and the ink is done, fingerprints show up a lot more. So what I like to do is I like to get a high glare light, look around the entire magazine under the glare, and that's where you're going to see the fingerprints pop off, and you'll be able to see the difference as to whether or not there's any fingerprints on there. Now sometimes you can get those fingerprints off. If you watch my cleaning videos, you can see where you can get some of those fingerprints off of there, and if you see very, very, very lightly right there, we've got a little discoloration in the glare. So I've got some fingerprints on the top of the black section there in the magazine. Tough to see, but they're right up there. So fingerprints are one of the big things. Some fingerprints you can remove, some you can't. The next thing that you're looking for when it comes to modern issues are what are called spine ticks. And that's right there. So a spine tick, and you're going to want to look at both spine ticks from both the front and the back. So what a spine tick is, and you can see it right there as it breaks color, right there. So a spine tick is when the cover or the back, the paper becomes crinkled either when opened or sometimes in manufacturing and shipping. And what happens is it actually breaks the ink color. So you're looking for spine ticks. This is, the top things, because when it comes to modern issues after fingerprints, it is all about the spine. In general, you're not going to see much on the corners, although sometimes you do. See, I've got a bent corner here. It looks like it breaks color. It does. It breaks color at the spine, but it doesn't break color in the rest. So if you're getting this magazine pressed, that's going to come out and that's not going to be fine. But pressing is not going to do anything to help spine ticks. So again, you see that spine tick right there. That's an immediate downgrade. So you're probably going to lose half a point for a spine tick like that. Multiple spine ticks, you're going to lose a point, point and a half maybe. And you can see on this magazine, I've got multiple spine ticks on it. Got some there, got some there, got the one there we've been looking at, a couple little ones there, and then I've got the one down here in the corner and another one there. You also definitely want to check the back of the magazine too. See, this magazine is riddled with spine ticks. I'm going to lose 2, maybe 3 points just on spine ticks alone because this one's got so much. And again, when they break color, there's nothing you can do about that. Now let's look at this example over here. If you can see this, try to get the glare. So you see I've got a bend right there. But because it's on a white portion, it's not going to break color because there's no color there. So that's something that'll be able to get out during pressing. So that's some things to look for on that issue. The next thing you're going to want to look for is the corners. So again, you can see here, I've got a tear in the top of this corner. If I can get this to focus, right there. Generally anything over a 1/16 of an inch, a tear on the corner in the spine, you're gonna get downgraded for that. So that's something else that you wanna keep an eye on. Another big one, and this is a really big issue, is what we call color break and spine stress. So again, this is a magazine that has color on both the front and the back, and as we look along the edge of the spine, we can see that that color's been broken, and that's because this magazine has been open, it's been read, there's been stress put on that spine, and the ink has flaked off. So again, when it comes to modern issues, you're always going to want to look at the spine. I start at the spine because that's where all of your problems are going to be on modern issues. Now, of course, you can have some fingerprints and that sort of stuff too, and you're going to have potential cracks and bends and that sort of thing as well. Another thing to look for. Now, there's not a lot of these. I shouldn't say that. It's not uncommon to find these. So this is an issue where the cover is actually smaller than the rest of the magazine. That creates a problem because what you're going to see is, just like on this magazine, you see that you get rub on that difference right there and you get color break. So again, magazines, and this is done because this is there's a fold-out insert, ad insert on the first page, and you'll see this. It's not uncommon to see it. There are lots of issues that do this, and again, it's going to make it more difficult to get a high grade because you've got that cover that's a little bit smaller than the rest of the magazine, and that gives you good opportunities for color break. Something else that I think is really important too, and that is thick issues. So swimsuit issues are traditionally very difficult to get high grades on because they're really thick. Double issues, NFL preview, Major League Baseball preview, college previews, all those sorts of things. The issues are going to be really, really thick. So what's that going to do? It's going to give us more issues along the spine. So if we see here, we can see again, more color break along the spine right there. We see that we've got a damaged corner at the top, but with these thick issues, what you get, if I could bring that into focus, spine stress on the staples and tears at the staples. So you can see that the cover and the back are actually tearing at the point of the staple. And that's because there's so much paper in these issues that it doesn't take very much for you to get that stress on the spine and the stress in the staple area. So you can see where that one has been torn, and you're likely going to lose at least a full point on this, and that's just for one staple issue. If you've got multiple staple pulls, you'll lose more points. And again, on this one, you can see that we've got some damage along the corner. So those are the things to look for when you're looking at modern issues. Fingerprints, aside from the obvious like bends that break color and that sort of stuff, you're going to want to focus most of your time along the spine for modern issues. Now let's take a look at a vintage issue. So similar things that you're going to be on the lookout for. Obviously, we're going to look for spine stress, and we're going to look for color break and fingerprints and all that sort of stuff. But you're going to have the potential for a lot more damage on these vintage issues. So if I zoom in here, you can see all of that. Now that's not dirt. I've been trying to get this off. I can't get it off. So what that means is that's mold. Very typical on issues that are, 50, 60, 70 years old. So that's mold all along the top. That is likely not going to come off no matter how much I clean it. So again, you want to keep an eye out for dirt. You want to keep an eye out for mold. Mold especially is bad news because there's just virtually no way that I've been able to find to get that off of there. With vintage issues, I spend more time along the edges. So you can see here the top edge of this one, aside from that mold there, not that bad. If we zoom in here, we can see, okay, yeah, we've got a crinkled corner with some color break there. We've got some rub right along there where the ink has kind of faded away after years and years and years of being rubbed along. I've got a color break and a little, you can see the little ding right there. Yep, got some bends here in the corner with color break. Again, anytime it breaks color, pressing is not going to fix that. Then as we kind of go here, I've got a little bit of a tear in the bottom, and I've got some color break along that tear. And then, of course, the same things that we see in a modern issue, we want to focus on the spine. I've got spine ticks all up along the edge, several of them, and then I go to the top. So these are some of the things that you get downgraded for most. Fingerprints, color break, both on the spine stress area and spine ticks on the front and the back. Don't forget, you always got to look on the back too. People sometimes just sit there and look at the cover of them. CGC judges based on the cover and the back. Staples, thick issues. Sometimes you get staple issues with thin issues as well, but big, thick issues, always going to be a problem with stress and tears on those staples. For vintage issues, you definitely got to be on the lookout for more dirt. Here's a good example. I've got dirt all along the back here. So I've got dirt right by that car bumper. I've got some on top of the car. I've got some at the top. So these are the sorts of things that you want to be on the lookout for. Vintage issues, you want to be on the lookout for dirt and mold. And know if you see that kind of spotting like we saw on the cover of this one, that's likely mold, and that's likely not going to be able to be cleaned off. and you're going to see big deductions. What kind of deductions? You know, starting with the 10-point scale, I mean, you know, it's common to see if you've got a modern issue with one bit of color rub somewhere or one fingerprint, it'll downgrade it to a 9.6 or a 9.4. If you've got a spine tick with color break, you're probably looking at a 9.4. Think of these in terms of half points. So if I've got fingerprints, that's potential half-point deduction. If I've got spine ticks on the front, if I've got multiple spine ticks, it may be a full-point deduction. If I've got color break on the spine because of the stress and opening of the magazine, that can be another full-point deduction, and then you've got to add all these up. And that's how you go about estimating and projecting your grades for your Sports Illustrated issues before you send them into CGC.